Good morning, everyone. So, I think what Sumit has shared is all about what web is and what is the scope of the web and what career did you see yourself to be built up in web technologies, maybe in front end, back end, or anything else. But the core foundation which you need to learn is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And for that, we have created this group. So today we are starting with the very first topic of learning web development is the client server architecture, right? So here on my screen, I'm going to present one of the client server architecture, how it looks like. This has been taken purely from the Google, right? So I'll just try to make you understand what exactly this is, how does this work, and where your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript lies in this architecture, right? If anyone is not able to see my screen, please let me know, because this is the first topic for this class and this is very important to understand how this architecture works. I hope this is clear to everyone and everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes, Tanuj, you can go ahead,
Okay,
please.
thank you. So when we about call about client server architecture or model, so it consists of three entities. The first entity is called client, second entity is server, and there is one middleware which Sumit was talking about. So middleware could be of many different technologies and many different things. Here the middleware we are talking about is internet, right? That internet is basically a mechanism with the help of which these clients communicate with the server, right? So if we try to understand the first entity, what is client? Client could be your machine, the desktop or laptop, whatever you're carrying, maybe your gadget like your mobile phone or your tablet, anything with the help of which you can connect with the internet, act as a client, right? I'll give you one more definition of what exactly the client is. So client are basically of different types, but right now I'm giving you a wide view of what exactly the client is. We'll talk about one more client which lies inside your gadgets, right? Whatever the gadget you have, maybe the desktop, mobile, or anything else, there is one more client lying inside it, right? So all these devices communicates with the server with the help of internet. This internet could be a means of connecting you with the server with the help of wires, or maybe with some network connections, right? Maybe Wi-Fi, or maybe the Airtel same or any Vodafone same, which is basically working on some waves, right? So that could be the mechanism. So there would be 100% surety that you are connecting with server with the mode of internet only, right? So we talked about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we are going to learn. Everything, all these three things are basically lying on your client side only, right? So if I'm having a fresh machine and I'm saying everything is lying on the client side, so ये सब आया कहाँ से client side पर, right? Whatever the HTML, CSS, or JavaScript which I'm talking about, how it is coming to my client. If I open one more tab and I say there is a website, maybe Creative Animation Technologies. This is one of our company's website. One of my friend is owning this. I'm just giving you an example of how the web architecture works. So guys, this is something I have searched for. This is the website name. I clicked on the URL and this URL is basically fetching up couple of the things from the server, right? This couple of things, if you see, this is a web page and this web page consists of three things. One is HTML, second thing is CSS, and the third thing is JavaScript, right? So what exactly this name is, if I try to understand, creativeanimation.org. In the start of this session, Sumit said that there is some domain which we can register on the internet That could be sumitkala.com or maybe some other name, right? So these domains are basically name of the servers. What is the server? The server is here, right? So this is the name of the server, right? We call it domain name because we people generally use to understand the names only. We do not understand the numbers. So there is a mapping between the domain and a mapping between the IP addresses, right? So IP addresses is basically the number format which basically points to this server only, right? So if I'll say this is the server, this address could be 121.98.45.78. If you see in my address bar, there is some IP address. This is called the IP address using which each and every device is getting connected. This is actual the name of that machine. Maybe the server or maybe the client. Clients are also having the same kind of IP addresses, right? So when I say I'm raising some request from this client to the server, it means this client will be having an IP address and this server would be having an IP address, right? Now we are giving a name to the server IP address only, not to the client, because we are trying to pull some of the resources from the server only, right? It's not only you, it may be anyone from the world who would be trying to pull the resources from the server. So if this server gives you a name 121.98.45.78, right? So this is the name of only one server. There could be many servers. Like facebook.com you have. If they also give you same kind of number format, or maybe yahoo.com they give you same kind of number format. So you won't be able to remember all these numbers, right? So that's why what we have done is we have mapped this number with some name, and that name is maybe facebook.com, right? And that could be some other number 56.78.45.63. This could be something related to creative animation technologies, right? So these all IP addresses are mapped to the domain names, right? We need to understand this because in computer terms, in the network terms, when we call it, all the IP addresses are basically working, right? So whenever your request from your client is going to the server, behind the scenes, these IP addresses are basically communicating in the network. These all domain names are getting resolved with the help of some technologies in the server, right? These are called domain name servers. They are basically mapping your domain name with the IP addresses. So in this client server architecture, my request from this device is going to this server with the help of this internet. What this request is basically, this request says, hey server, I have entered this URL and whatever the content you have with you on this URL, just give me all those content, right? So if I open one more page, just to differentiate between these two things, I'm opening about us. So this about.php, right? This is the complete URL of the web page, which is lying inside the server, which is lying inside here, right? So creativeanimation.org/about. If you see, the content of the page is different, right? And if you see here, the content of the page is different. What it's basically doing is, I am pointing to a server with the help of domain name. That request is coming here, and this server is fulfilling all the request. What it is doing is, if I'm saying I need a content for the home page, it will collect all the resources which are required to build up your home page. All those resources would be clubbed together in the form of an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and would be served to the client. So my request from any of this or this device is going to the server, and from wherever I have requested, this server is replying back to the client, right? And this request which is coming back, this response which is coming back to the client, that is in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only, right? So if I go to this page and I'll see the view source, You will see everything, whatever here is HTML, right? So this complete code is present on the web server. This server,
म्यूट करके
this
ज्वाइन कर
complete
ली
code is present there.
अपनी तरफ से एक दो क्वेश्चन
And you
पूछ
see this page comprises of many of the different things. There is an image. This is an image which we have on the page, right? This is some textual format which we have. Maybe some CSS files would be there, right? So all those files and all those images are lying on the server only, right? And this code could not only be a single server, there could be multiple servers. In this picture you can see only one, because I don't want to make the things complex for you, because this is the first session for you to understand. But there could be multiple servers, like the multiple clients we have, right? But those multiple server would be connecting to the single server only, because this single server is responsible for fulfilling all the requests which you are sending from your client to your server, right? So once the request is coming in, this server is basically checking, hey, you need your about us page, hey, you need your contact us page. So what all you need to build up a contact us page? I need a form, I need a CSS, I need a images, right? So it will collect all those resources and it will build up a HTML only, right? Why HTML only? Because my client, who is basically requesting from mobile or maybe from laptop, who is basically requesting for these resources, understands only and only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? But in the start of our session, Sumit was mentioning about Python, PHP, .NET, Node.js, all these technologies. So these are basically backend technologies which we have, right? The purpose of these backend technologies is just to create an HTML page, right? So all these technologies, whatever you say, PHP, PHP, Node.js, Java, .NET, whatever you call it, all those technologies are lying here on the server only, right? On the right hand side where the server is written. These languages are getting executed on the server, and they are all these languages, PHP, Java, any language if you talk about, all these languages are creating an HTML page for the web. If you are using it for web only, it will be creating an HTML page for that web, and that HTML page would be served back to your client. Earlier, we were talking your laptop, your mobile, and your desktop as a client, but there is a main player who is playing an role of client on those machine is basically a browser, right? So that browser could be your Firefox browser, that could be your Internet Explorer, maybe a Chrome, maybe a Safari. All these browsers are actual clients who are basically requesting the web page to the server, and that request is going back as a response to the client in the form of an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.